everybody! Today we're making a delicious, healing, and economical homemade chicken soup. Can't wait for you guys to join me in the kitchen. Okay, are you guys all ready to do some cooking? I thought this point in time in history would be an excellent time to show my viewers how I make homemade chicken soup. Why? Because chicken soup has some of the most incredible properties for your immune system to help you get better when you're sick. It's a great antiviral dish to eat. And with the COVID-19 coronavirus circulating our world right now, I think this is just the soup we need. I'm actually gonna show you how I make this soup right from the chicken all the way down to the end. So if you don't have a whole chicken that you can cook up, that's okay, you can adapt to this recipe, but I did want to teach you all how I make broth from the chicken and from its bones, because that is what has those super powerful healing properties in them. So what you're going to do is take a chicken. Now, I have frozen chickens because when I buy my roaster chickens, I buy them in bulk from a friend of ours who's a farmer. So you're going to take your chicken. A lot of people thaw out a frozen chicken in the fridge before they cook it, but I am clearly too lazy for that, so I cook it from frozen. And the trick with cooking from frozen instead of cooking from fresh or thawed is that you're going to roast it at a lower temperature for longer. So the rule of thumb my mom always taught me is that you want to cook a frozen chicken for half an hour per pound at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm cooking up a 9-pound roaster chicken, which means I'm going to cook it for 4.5 hours on 325 degrees. When I put it in my roaster pan, I put a couple cups of water in there just to give it some moisture. I also like to layer the skin of the chicken with different herbs and spices. I like to use salt, pepper, garlic, rosemary, pretty much whatever you have on hand that you think would be good. Put that on the chicken. Now I'm popping it into my oven and I'm leaving it to roast for 4.5 hours until I take it out. Because this is such a big chicken, I'm going to get 2 meals out of it. The first meal, we're just gonna cut some chicken off of the bone and eat that chicken with some potatoes and veggies for a meal. And then I'm going to save the rest of the chicken for the soup recipe I'm going to make for a few days later. Once you've removed all of the chicken from the bones, leave the bones and all the drippings and fat and extras in the pan. Then you're going to fill up your pan with water until all of the bones and the scraps are covered in water. Put that on your stove, bring it to a boil, and then reduce it to simmer for at least 3 hours. You want to have it simmering this long because that's what's going to release all of those healing properties from the marrow and the bones of your chicken. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to strain your broth. So you're going to strain all of that water through a strainer so that the strainer catches all the bones, the scraps, all of that you don't want in your broth. You're going to put all of this strained broth in a large pot in the refrigerator or somewhere very cold. And you're gonna leave that sit overnight or for 8 hours or however long. Then you're gonna take it out, and what you're going to do is you're going to skim the layer of fat off the top because all of the fat will have solidified and risen to the top. You're gonna skim that off, and what you're left with is a deep, rich, beautiful broth. If you are not making this soup recipe from a chicken and you are not boiling down the bones and making a broth, you can definitely just use chicken broth you've bought from the store. For this recipe, I'm using about 16 cups of broth. So this is gonna make a really big pot of soup. If you don't want that much, you can just half this recipe. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to get my broth boiling. While it's coming to a boil, I'm going to chop up all the vegetables and good stuff that's going into it. So first, let's chop up some onions. For this recipe, you're going to chop up about 2 medium white onions. Now, I'm not sure if you know about all the wonderful properties of onions. We cook with a lot of onions. Full disclosure, in our garden every year, we plant about 400 onions and they're gone by January. We use them in a lot of canning, but we use them in a lot of cooking as well. And it's not only because we love the taste of onions, but there's a lot of amazing properties about them. First of all, there's an antioxidant compound in onions that fights inflammation. It also reduces cholesterol and triglycerides. So that can lower your risk of heart disease. So there's so many great things about onions. So pop those in, not just this soup, but lots of recipes. Next, we're going to chop up 4 carrots. These carrots are peeled and washed. Next is 4 stalks of celery. Now let me tell you a thing or two about celery when I am chopping. Not only does it add flavor to your dishes, but it's actually got a property in it that is a plant compound called apigenin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly because I've only read about it, but it's a traditional Chinese medicine and it's actually antibacterial and antiviral. It also has cancer fighting properties. So if you have illness running through your house or you're trying to protect yourself from illness, I can't think of anything better than a vegetable that has antibacterial and antiviral properties. So definitely we want celery in this soup. Next is a whole lot of garlic. Do you guys know all about the health benefits of garlic? Garlic is seen as an incredible medicinal bulb that actually fights the common cold. It also reduces your blood pressure. So when you are sick and you are stressed, eat some garlic, add it to your dishes, make sure it's a regular part of your diet. So in this recipe, there are 6 cloves of garlic that I'm going to mince and put in. So I've minced my garlic, into the veggies it goes. Next on my list is the humble potato. I've got 4 large potatoes here. Now you can choose to make this soup with noodles instead of potatoes. The reason I'm adding potatoes is because I simply like it better than chicken noodle. And honestly, right now, if you're at the place where you're making homemade soup, for example, because there is no soup on the shelves in the store, chances are there's also not going to be noodles on your shelf in the store. But I have noticed that there's still lots of fresh fruits and vegetables kicking around. And potatoes are great if you're also going for a gluten-free soup. Into the soup, along with my veggies and garlic, is going to go half a tablespoon of salt. Yes, you heard me correctly, half a tablespoon, not a teaspoon. Trust me, you're going to need that amount of salt when you're making a homemade soup from homemade broth. Remember, a lot of the broth you buy in the store for making soups already has salt added to it. And if it doesn't, it tastes a little bit gross. But this amount of salt is still a lot less than if you were buying canned soup from the store, which is much higher in sodium. And don't forget, this half a tablespoon of salt is going into an enormous batch of chicken soup. I also have here a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. So I'm going to add that now to my boiling pot of broth. Now my veggies are going to boil for about 1 hour in that broth until they're nice and soft, and I'm not going to add my chicken until that point. And once the veggies are soft, I'm going to add 4 cups of the chicken I have reserved from when I cooked my roasted chicken earlier in the week. As you can see, I just store my chicken that's chopped in a mason jar in the fridge until I'm ready to make my soup with it. This will stay good in the fridge for several days for sure. And it's kind of handy because a quart jar is equal to 4 cups. So I know that I have exactly what I need, 4 cups for this soup recipe right here. So my soup has been cooking for an hour. The vegetables are soft. I'm gonna pop my chicken in there. That chicken will need to warm in the soup for about 15 or 20 minutes, which is the exact amount of time it'll take me to cook up these biscuits that I've made. I'm having homemade biscuits with soup today, so I might as well cook them when my soup finishes up. The reason why chicken is so good for you when you are sick is that it contains amino acids. And these amino acids are released when you make broth and when you cook up chicken. And as the soup is cooking, it really helps to release those amino acids. And the particular amino acids in chicken, that amino acid actually reduces mucus in the lungs and aids in the healing process. So if you've got a bronchial infection or cold, chicken soup's so good for you. And there you have it, my homemade chicken soup. My family and I are really going to enjoy this tonight. I cannot wait to enjoy that steaming bowl of soup and that buttery biscuit. I hope this video finds you well. If you're up for watching more videos about my cooking, I'm gonna link those. And as usual, please like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video, everyone. For the least, this is Jen.